about design is embellishments. Sequins, yes please. Beading, absolutely. Embroidery, can't get enough of it. So when I saw these from Chanel's 2019 Spring Summer Haute Couture collection, I was like, I need those. I have to have those in my life. But since you can't buy them, I checked. We're gonna have to make them, or something similar, and then make something to stick them onto. So here's the plan. We're making each petal individually, and once we put them all together, they'll turn into a flower. So we're going to do our own version of the inspo photos, and in part 2, I'll be making a dress to sew them onto. Unless they turn out terribly, and then we'll never speak of this again. Now, I've never done this before, so we're going to take it one step at a time. I actually bought this clay for another project that I was going to do, but I never ended up doing. And now it's getting some use. I can't remember what the original idea actually was. I tend to have a lot of ideas and poor execution skills. I guess that doesn't really matter now, does it? So I thought polymer clay would be perfect because it's lightweight and paintable, because we're going to be painting it later. Alright, let's take a look at our mood board. This is the vibe I'm going for. Soft, romantic, maybe a little bit whimsical, with the color palette being dusty pinks, burgundies, soft purples, and a light dusty blue. My goal is to make 5 different flower shapes in a mix of sizes, 2 smaller ones, 1 medium, and 2 larger ones, and then vary the colors to keep it interesting. So I'm going to start by doing a test run, but let's read the instructions first, because I don't know what I'm doing. Start with clean hands and work area. Knead clay until soft and smooth. Shape clay. Bake on oven-proof glass or metal surface at 275 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes per 1/4 inch of thickness. Do not microwave. Do not overbake. Baking should be completed by an adult. Wash hands after use. Alright, seems simple enough. For the test run, we're going to test for 3 things. How long they should be in the oven, if the acrylic paint that I have stays on, and if Mod Podge works as a sealant. I was reading online that sometimes paint and different sealants can become discolored with polymer clay, so we'll find out. For these, I put very little effort, so they aren't that pretty, but they're hot pink, so that's fun. I figured I would try 5 minutes in the oven and see how that goes. I did end up over baking them, even though the package said not to. I have disobeyed the rules. Anyways, they're a little crunchy. We'll work on that for the real thing. I think I'm going to bring it down to 3 minutes in the oven. I did go a little longer than 5. I usually tend to underbake things and overbake things. The acrylic paint I have in the sealant seemed to work just fine. I just used Mod Podge because I had it. Alright, so our test is complete, and now it's time to move on to the main event. I wanted to use white as the base because I'll be painting it later, and it will just give me a good foundation for the colors. Cutting out the petals started out a bit rough. The steak knife probably wasn't the best option for this, but here we are. The good thing about clay is that if you mess up, you can just squish it back down and start all over. The parchment paper wasn't working very well. The clay kept sticking to it, which I did not think it was going to do. I just used a plastic bag to see if something plasticky would work better, and it definitely did. After cutting each of them out, I cleaned up the edges the best I could so they didn't look like they were cut with a hacksaw, which is kind of what they were giving. And I just used a pin to poke holes in them so we could sew them onto something. So I've run into a bit of a problem. So I baked the clay as I was supposed to, and I took them out and let them cool. And as I was sort of like picking them up and just checking them, they started breaking. They got really brittle and they're crumbling, which is not good. And we can't make flower beads with crumbly, falling apart flowers. Also, my test run, later on, 2 out of 3 broke. They snapped. So this isn't going to work, and I'm going to have to find something else. maybe a different type of clay, probably just a different type of clay. So I'm gonna have to come back to this tomorrow. So the next day, I searched for a better option. The internet said that the clay I was using was known to be brittle, so that was comforting to know. Anyway, people on the internet said to use this clay as one of the options. So I went out to pick that up. I also got some paint and some other things as well. So I also bought this clay tool set because I feel like I need it. The steak knife wasn't really cutting it. Anyway, I don't need these right now. So I'm hoping this is better. So let's see how this goes. This was just a really inexpensive, probably child's set. And it had a little rolling pin, which is super helpful because this was pretty much doing nothing. The instructions are pretty much the same as the other one, but we have to do a little more math to figure out how long I need it in the oven for, which is not my strong suit, but we'll figure it out one way or another. This clay at first was hard to work with. I feel like the packaging was an indication of this, I could not get it open. It was hard to get pliable and to flatten it out, but it was also easier to work with in the end. It holds its shape better, and it has a sort of plasticky feel. It's more flexible. It's the best way I can describe it. My new tools made it easier as well. It took a little while to get the hang of cutting out the shapes and not sticking my fingernails in them all the time. I feel like I've learned a lot about oven-baked clay and the different types, properties of each of them, which I honestly didn't think of before this, as I've never worked with clay like this before. Who knew? Maybe you did, I don't know. After taking some calculations, I put them in the oven for about 10 minutes. And so far none of them have broken. So I'm feeling pretty confident about this batch. Alright, it's time to paint our flowers. I made about 11 flowers. I say about because I did a few extra just like petals, just for fun. If I need to make more, I'll make more. We have our colors here. I did only buy one purple because I can just lighten it with white paint. But I feel like that just makes the most sense. Same with the red, which I can just make, which just turns into pink. And I have pink, but I have a dusty pink. And then I have a berry pink. I don't have a darker blue though, so the blue is going to be the blue. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by painting the whole thing white and then adding the color in on top of that white before it dries. So it just kind of blends and then just keep layering on top to make it look like a flower, ideally. Alright, let's get started. I'm not gonna lie, painting these was kind of tedious, mainly because of their size, which is small. I'm just using basic craft level acrylic paint. I kept adding layers of paint until I got how I wanted it to look for the most part. I kind of just made it up as I went. Now I try to plan things out, but then I forget that I did that, and then I just keep going along as if I had no plan in the first place. But sometimes spontaneity and going with the flow can lead to better results. At least that's what I tell myself. Instead of Mod Podge to make them shiny, I use this. It's a pearl translucent paint by Martha Stewart. Shout out to Martha, because this stuff is beautiful. I liked how this gave them this iridescent look, and it toned down some of the colors that I didn't really like that much. It wasn't really what I was going for, which was mainly the blue. It was a little too blue. I wanted more of a dusty blue. But anyway, this is what I ended up with. And this is how they would roughly look sewn on. I woke up in the middle of the night last night stressed that I could have done these better. I'm pretty sure I dreamed about how to do them better, or do them differently. But late night meltdown aside, I think they'll make more sense when it's all like put together, like sewn onto something. I did end up sanding down the edges a bit, which did help. I did find it hard to cut out the shapes properly, and that's just practice. I might try to make a few more in the next part of the video, in part 2, where I make something to sew these things onto. But basically I think it's the same concept as the Chanel ones, just a little less refined. But you know, in my own way. Because I'm not Chanel and I don't even know what those ones are actually made of. It could be sequins for all I know. But I have some ideas of what I want to sew them onto, so I'll see you in the next video.